Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Chris Buckley, and I'm part of the I-405 Improvement Project Community Outreach Team. I'm here with Nikki Wright, and we'd like to thank you for joining us today for this online meeting. We'll be providing a brief update on the project and on the next stage of activities at the Fairview Road Bridge. First, though, a little housekeeping. Nikki?
Sure. Thanks, Chris. Hi, everyone. Here are a few things to keep in mind for the meeting. If you get disconnected, just hit the reconnect button on your screen and you'll get right back into the webinar. After our presentation, we'll have a little question and answer session, and you can submit your questions at any time using the chat box. We have some resources for you under the file section, and these include the project fact sheet, our bridge map and fast facts, the latest Fairview Bridge FAQ, frequently asked questions, our express lanes FAQ, and the express lanes access map. So you can download those anytime as PDFs during the presentation. And under the offer section, there's a link to sign up for project alerts. You can sign up for project-wide alerts where we share a little sprinkle of everything, or a few, or just everything that you want for bridge-specific alerts. So if you just want Fairview information, harbor, etc. We'll also be conducting a few instant polls during the presentation, so please feel free to participate in those when you see them. And those are going to be in the polls section. And we'll also be sending out an electronic survey via email after the meeting, and we'd really appreciate your feedback on that. And we'd like to acknowledge additional team members who are working behind the scenes to keep the webinar running smoothly. They are Joey Fernandez, Jessica Stock, and Anna Finlay. They'll be managing your questions, doing a little research, and communicating with you via the chat box. Finally, we want to let you know this meeting is being recorded and will be available by 4 p.m. tomorrow from our project website, which is octa.net/405improvement. So if you know someone who couldn't join us tonight, please tell them to head over to our website and they can check out the recording there. So now we will do our first poll in the polls section. Please take a moment to participate. We'd like to know how you found out about this webinar, and that's in the polls section.
Awesome. Thanks, Nikki. So now we'd like to provide a brief overview and a status update on the project, and then we'll talk more about what's coming up at Fairview. So in this slide on the left, you can see the project limits are from approximately State Route 73 in Costa Mesa to the I-405 in Seal Beach. That's a length of about 16 miles. On the right, you'll see that one regular lane will be added in each direction of the 405. That's consistent with Measure M and shown in yellow. And an additional lane will be added in each direction that will combine with the existing carpool lane to provide dual express lanes from State Route 73 to I-405, and that's shown in green. On this next slide, you can see some of the major features of the project. We are replacing 18 bridges as part of this work. We are widening 4 others, and we are constructing a new express lanes connector between SR 73 and I-405. We're also building more than 150 walls throughout the project area, and there will be new bike lanes and sidewalks on all of the new bridges. The overall cost of the project is approximately $2.08 billion. Next, Nikki is going to provide a brief update on construction activities. Nikki?
Thank you. We're very excited to share that the project hit a major milestone a few months ago. We passed the 50% complete mark, and the next several slides show the construction progress. So more than half of the walls are under construction or completed. These 2 photos reflect the aesthetic patterns that are being placed on the retaining walls and sound walls, and most of the walls on the project will be completed by the end of this year. This slide shows some of the concrete paving being placed to accommodate the wider freeway. Significant paving will take place this year for the freeway widening and where we are realigning on and off ramps. Here you can see the progress being made on widening the freeway over the Santa Ana River. Moon Park is in the background in the top left part of the photo. And on this slide, the photo on the left shows the new northbound on-ramp from Highland Avenue and South Coast being constructed. And the photo on the right shows some of the false work installed for the freeway bridge being widened over Harbor Boulevard. So looking ahead further into this year, it will continue to be a busy time for bridges, walls, and pavement construction. And this slide shows some of the upcoming bridge milestones that we anticipate this year. Crews began demolishing the second half of the Westminster Bridge last weekend, and that will continue this weekend as well. The first half of the Fairview Bridge is anticipated to open this month, and Chris will talk a little bit more about that shortly. The Talbot Bridge is anticipated to fully open this spring, and that will allow us to start reconstruction of the Ward Bridge shortly after. The first half of the Bolsa Bridge is anticipated to open early this summer. The Magnolia Bridge is anticipated to be the first two-stage bridge that will open fully to traffic this summer. And opening that bridge, Magnolia, allows us to start the reconstruction of the Warner Bridge this summer as well. Several other bridges are anticipated to be completed in the second half of this year, including the Heil Pedestrian Bridge, the Edwards, Bolsa Chica, and Golden West bridges. The next slide shows our bridge map, which is one of the files you can download, and it's also available on our website. In the green, the 3 bridge replacements that are completed and now open to traffic are McFadden, Bouchard, and Slater. And by around the end of 2021, we anticipate having 9 of the 18 replacements complete and fully open to traffic. The only bridges that have not yet started construction are shown in red here, and construction on those is anticipated to start later this year or early next. Next, Chris is going to share the latest on the Fairview Bridge and what we expect in the coming months.
All right. Thank you, Nikki. Much appreciated. So as Nikki mentioned earlier, the contractor is getting ready to switch traffic onto the first half of the new Fairview Bridge. The traffic switch activities began last weekend with crews doing some preliminary striping and K-rail placement. This prep work, just important to acknowledge, that the prep work is going to continue as crews work to tie in the existing roadway and ramps with the new bridge. So that's what you're seeing going on right now. Then on Thursday, February 11th at 6:30 p.m., Fairview Road between McCormick Lane and South Coast Drive, as well as all the ramps, will be closed to allow for final placement of K-rail and restriping, among some other final activities. Then on Friday morning, February 12th at 6:30 a.m., traffic will be driving on the new bridge. That's the current plan. We always put a disclaimer out there that says unforeseen site conditions, weather might impact that, but we're on track at this point to put traffic onto the new bridge by the morning of Friday, February 12th. On that new bridge, there will continue to be 2 lanes in each direction. That'll be the case for the rest of construction. So 2 lanes in each direction on that new bridge, though there will be intermittent lane reductions at off-peak hours for some activities, as there has been with the current construction. So once the switch is completed, crews will move quickly to demolish the remainder of the old bridge. Right now, demolition is scheduled for later this month. We'll be updating the community as that work gets closer. After demolition, the general process is you construct the foundation of the bridge, the new bridge. That will include pile driving. So everybody's been through this already. They'll build the bridge abutments. Those are those concrete structures supporting each side of the bridge. They will build the bridge center columns in the middle of the freeway. They'll construct the superstructure and the deck. That's that horizontal bridge component that spans the freeway. And then on the deck itself, on the bridge itself, they'll construct the concrete barriers on each side of the bridge and the approaches. They'll pour the sidewalks, the curb and gutters. They'll pave the roadway and perform electrical work and striping, final striping. In addition to that, there are currently 2 extended ramp closures that I'm going to talk more about in just a moment. All of this work, generally speaking, is going to take about 16 months, which means the second half of the bridge would open to traffic in mid-2022. So let's talk a little bit more about the ramp closures. There is a 100-day closure that's required, and a lot of this is because of the sort of the tight space that we have to work in on the freeway here. So I'm going to turn the whiteboard on this, and hopefully you guys can see, but we have the 100-day closure will affect this ramp going from the 73 to Fairview. Okay. It will affect the off-ramp that's back here that goes to Fairview, Susan, and everything else beyond there. So it's Fairview and Susan that will be affected, right? Now, during this 100-day closure, the detour will be South Coast Drive, and this is for the folks who want to get to Fairview and Susan Street. They'll be able to exit at Fairview. They won't be able to exit at Fairview or Susan, but they will detour via South Coast Drive. And for Harbor Boulevard, if you want to get there, that temporary ramp right now, that temporary off-ramp from what we call the mainline portion of the freeway, that will remain open as well. So there will be no access for northbound motorists to Fairview or Susan for this 100-day period, which is expected to occur sometime this spring. Maybe a little bit later, spring, summer, we'll see. The requirement for us is to have it completed prior to the start of the Orange County Fair this season. In addition to that, and I'm going to clear this, we will have a closure of the southbound Fairview off-ramp. That's going to be a 30-day closure of this ramp right here. And that is in order to realign and rework that ramp as well. As many of you probably know, there are also walls that are being constructed as part of this. Several walls still remain to be completed here. There's one that's going to be on the inside right here. There, I believe, is still some work happening on some of the walls along this roadway here, along this portion here, the collector distributor. So a lot of that work will be ongoing. Again, prior to the start of pile driving for that work, we'll be notifying the community. So as I mentioned, the next phase of work is expected to take, and I'm going to clear this, turn that off, come back to this slide, is expected to take about 16 months. We expect the bridge to be fully open by mid-2022. One of the questions that we've gotten, because the first time we had a meeting about this bridge, we anticipated it taking 24 months. And one of the questions we've gotten during construction of the first half is, why is it taking so long? So as we've learned over the course of construction, there are a lot of factors that affect it, including unforeseen site conditions, the availability of crews, subcontractors, or equipment, activities taking more time than originally anticipated, and weather impacts. So some of these factors were at play in Fairview's case. Specifically, as I mentioned a little earlier, the work area on the freeway at Fairview is extremely tight. Those space constraints required extensive temporary shoring to safely construct the new sides of the bridge or the abutments. Again, those are the concrete structures that support each side of that horizontal superstructure. Also, additional shoring was required for the center columns of the bridge. That additional shoring took more time, needed to be designed properly, took more time to install, and that delayed, that slowed progress on the bridge work. Additionally, the bridge substructure is composed of precast girders. You may have been out there and watched when they installed those girders over the course of several nights last year. I think it was in fall. And those required extra attention and testing to ensure they met Caltrans standards. So that added some delay to the bridge construction. And then, of course, weather. It's not been that rainy this season, of course, but 2019 was extremely rainy. It was about 140% above of normal, so 40% above average there. And then in 2020, though it wasn't as much rain, it still was significant. There was very strong downpours, and we weren't out of the ground in a lot of places. And ultimately what that ends up doing is a day of rain can lead to anywhere from like a week to 10 days of added delay, because we've got to wait until it dries properly to get back in the ground and do some of the work. So that's all I have for the Fairview Bridge update. Now Nikki's going to wrap up our presentation with some details about our engagement strategies and how to stay connected with the project.
All right. So as you can see from this slide, we connect with the community in a variety of ways, both in print and electronically. For major activities like bridge demolition and pile driving, we canvass flyers to addresses within a half a mile of the bridge. We also send out regular updates by email and on social media, and you can find our closure and detour information on our interactive map at octa.net/405map. That same information is also available on the navigation app Waze, which you may be familiar with. And you can also download our 405 Project mobile app from the App Store or in Google Play. And while our team usually likes in-person discussions, which we had for the first round of Fairview work for major updates like this, we will be continuing to conduct these and all other meetings virtually for the foreseeable future. If you have any specific questions or concerns, you can call our project helplines or email us at 405project@octa.net, and we can put that email address in the chat. If we don't have an answer for you, we'll work with our colleagues on the technical team to get you one. And we're going to do another poll before we go into our Q&A session. Please take a moment to go into the poll section and let us know what is the best way for you to get construction updates in the poll section. And we do already have some questions in the queue that we will.
Excellent.
Yes, we will go in order as they came in. So please be patient with us as we go in order. All right. Are you ready for questions?
I am. Let's go.
Okay. Let's see. All right. Andrew actually has a question about Golden West that I will share with the group.
Alrighty. So Andrew Chuang says if the Golden West Street northbound on-ramp, so asking if that on-ramp will have a traffic signal. The answer to that question is yes. Well, let's see, the northbound on-ramp going to northbound. Actually, no, I believe that will be a free. So you're in that case, you're heading northbound on Golden West and wanting to get to the northbound freeway. Andrew, if that's what you're talking about, that I believe will ultimately end up being a free right turn off of Golden West. I don't know that you'll have to stop there. Right now, it's in a temporary condition. Actually, what I'll do is ask our colleagues in the background on the technical team to take a look in that. So this assumes that we're going northbound on Golden West to get to the northbound 405 freeway. I believe it will be a free right turn, but we'll check for you.
All right. And Andrew also had a question about Bolsa, which we can see.
Excellent. Bolsa, north and south on and off ramp, asking also if those will have traffic signals. It depends on which direction I think you're talking about. But in general, the plan is to create a less congested situation for motorists, bicycles, pedestrians. And in that case, in most instances, the intersections on those bridges will be signalized. So in general, that's the case across the project. We'll have to look at Bolsa and probably get back to you.
Yes, I think, sorry, trying to do a few things at once here and make sure I'm reading some background info on those questions. We did get an answer on Golden West. The terminus of the northbound 405 on-ramp and Golden West will have a traffic light at Golden West.
Oh, okay, so it's going to be like all the rest. So that's good.
And then we'll wait until we get a little bit more information on the Bolsa question.
Sounds good.
All right. And Lance has a question.
That's great. Lance is asking, is there a publicly accessible PDF or other document of the map of the completed project? It'd be interesting to see the finished detail of the ramp paths and watch as they're constructed toward that end design. So there are construction plans. If you're interested in, like, basically I look at pavement delineation to understand the final configuration of the ramp. But if you're looking for specifics, we can, on Fairview, for example, we can certainly provide that. I spoke with another constituent earlier today who was asking for an aerial view that was a rendering of the interchange. We don't have that. There are no renderings, but we can provide a look at what the interchanges look like from in terms of the number of lanes they'll have at each of the ramps and how the ramps will be configured. But Fairview is going to be very similar to the way it was before, although I think the ramps will be a little bit wider and more accommodating. And we'll take a look at that. I'm sure that's something we might be able to get for you before the end of the meeting.
All right. Let me see where we are here. Okay, Deb has a question.
When will sound walls go up at Moon Park? The wall is pretty, but sound walls are critical. So the status of work at Moon Park, I think it's ongoing. I think it's expected to be completed in the next month or two. Is that correct?
I believe. Yeah, I think we need to double check. I believe block installation, which is pretty much the last major step in rebuilding the wall, is coming up soon if it hasn't started already. But we can have our technical folks in the background check on that for us too. All right. And you can hear me okay? Okay, just making sure. Christy had a comment about pile driving.
When there's pile driving, black smoke comes out. Right, so that's actually part of the rig. All of these rigs have to meet AQMD and state regulations, Caltrans regulations. So yes, while there is exhaust coming out, there's no way to really stop that, and it is monitored and regulated, right? So the rigs all have to meet certain requirements and certain standards. But we'll pass that on, the concern about the black smoke coming out to the team, to the technical team, and ask that they make sure that we're keeping those up to standard. So thank you for that.
Okay, and Kirsty, mentioned she lives about 2 blocks away, so I'm sure it's...
Oh, Kirsty, yes.
Yes. All right, Juliet has a question about detours.
Yeah, back to the question from Kirsty. One of the things that we're going to do out of this meeting is gather some of the questions that require a little bit more research to get answers to, and we will compile those into a Q&A document that we'll send to everybody here in the group, and in fact, everybody who has registered for the meeting. And then we'll make that available to anybody who needs it. So we'll respond. We'll include that question about the exhaust coming from the pile drivers in there as well. So Juliet says, with the current detours, can the left turn light from Baker to the Bear 73 on-ramps be extended? It is backing up horribly in the mornings. So thank you for that, Juliet. We will pass that along. We've got a team that's dedicated to maintenance of traffic and traffic flow. So we'll pass that request on to them and ask them to go take a look at what's going on at the ramp and see if there can be anything done, if we can, modify the signal phasing at all and try to extend that time. Thank you for that.
All right. And to build off of what you said about follow-up answers that we'll be sending to the group, that the BOLSA question that Andrew had will also be something that we include in that. All right, and Angie had a question about installing prepare to stop signs southbound between Harbor Boulevard and southbound between Harbor and the 73. Traffic stops very suddenly with laggers trying to cut the waiting line.
So again, that's a question for the MOT team. Caltrans is very particular about signage that goes up on the freeway. They want to make sure that everything is per plan. These plans have been devised prior to the implementation of any kind of lane closure. We're always reviewing things though, so it's another question we'll take back to the MOT team, of which Caltrans is a part, and we'll ask them if there's anything that can be done that would be more appropriate. We did just do over the last weekend some restriping to open up that connector back to 2 lanes, or I should say open it up to 2 lanes. So that hopefully is going to alleviate some of the issues, but we will take a look at it for sure.
And I got some information from the team about the Moon Park wall, which I think, I'm not sure who it was that asked that, forgive me, Deb. Deb, I think you also mentioned this in another comment, but Moon Park walls will go up in approximately 2 months. So they haven't started with the block yet, but they're working on it.
And I think one of the things there is, so you were talking right above Moon Park, and we were thinking about the neighborhood along Nevada, where a lot of the work has already begun, and some of the other state streets there. Many of the property owners throughout that area, so it's just from about Moon Park all the way south as you move closer to Harbor. Those homes have what are called TCEs, or temporary construction easements. And those construction easements allow the project to work on that private property for a certain amount of time and then construct the wall and ultimately leave that property and hand it back to the property owner. Those agreements close up in the next month or so here, which is why I thought that's what we were talking about. That wall is what's in progress. That's what Nikki was mentioning. But it sounds like, yeah, the one over Moon Park, it doesn't have the same issue. We're not using private land to build that wall. So that's probably why it's been pushed to the end of the construction of the wall along that stretch between the Santa Ana River and Harbor.
And circling back to just what you were talking about, our maintenance of traffic team, Chris, generally we can adjust signal timing to meet the needs of traffic control. We just have to work with the city and Caltrans, whoever is jurisdiction it is, to get that going. Great. All right. Charlotte had a question about Fairview here.
So with only 2 lanes each way on the new portion of the Fairview Bridge, will the northbound on-ramp left turn lanes still be absent? The answer to that question is yes. There won't be. I believe, though, in looking at the maintenance of traffic plans, right, they're called MOT plans, that you will still have access to that ramp from coming southbound. So if you wanted to go up to South Coast Drive, you would make the U-turn there and come back south. And I believe you'll be able to, and if we could check that with the technical team, I want to make sure my reading of the plans is correct, but you'll still be able to access northbound 405 when you're coming southbound on Fairview. I want to make sure that's correct. But the left turn lanes still will be absent for now.
Okay, we'll move to the next question while they're looking that up. Sue had a question.
How do you expect South Coast Drive to handle all the traffic from the 73? So just an important clarification there, it's not going to be taking all the traffic from the 73. It's just going to be taking the traffic that is using the Fairview off-ramp from the 73. So that's what's going to be closed. And then, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, it's not going to actually, it's not, South Coast Drive isn't going to handle all the traffic from the 73. So that Fairview connection is going to be closed from 73 to Fairview. The 73 to the 405, that will be maintained. That's going to be open. Coming south on the 405, it's the traffic that would exit normally at Fairview and at Susan that is going to be needing to exit at South Coast Drive. And there's an analysis done. This extended closure, 100-day closure, requires a traffic analysis. And the traffic analysis shows what the ramps can handle. That ramp will be striped to its final configuration by that point. So it will be able to handle the additional traffic. In addition, we do expect that some vehicles, some motorists will take the Harbor off-ramp instead, make their right turn, and then turn right to get to Susan or to Fairview at that point. But the traffic team has studied it, and it can handle the capacity. That's not to say that there won't be congestion. There still will be, which there always is during construction, like projects like this. But Caltrans is very adamant about making sure vehicles clear off the freeway, clear off the main line. So if there are any issues, it will be addressed.
Oh, right. And Steve had a question about fencing, but we might need a little bit more information about where you're located, Steve. Why is the crew today removing the new fence that was just installed?
It may be talking about the fencing that was installed on the completed bridge. There might be some work there. I did see some of the fence that's on top of the barrier there. I don't know if that's what you're talking about, Steve, but we'd have to get with the technical team and ask, was there an issue or something like that?
All right. And Angie had a question. What is the schedule for the 405 southbound fence adjacent to Durango River, which I believe is the Tiburon community?
Correct. That's a question. I don't have the answer to that one. We can try to look at the schedule. Have we had any inquiries lately on that and gotten response team from the contractor?
We'll have to get some answers in the background and circle back with you, Angie, in the next few minutes here, hopefully. And then for our next question, Cynthia had questions about sidewalks. Will the sidewalks be open on the new Fairview Bridge? It has been tough to get across the bridge on bicycle and also on Fairview Road near Segerstrom House and northbound. Can that be improved?
Yes, so that's one of the questions that we have in our FAQ, and Nikki, you probably know the answer to this as well. We will be maintaining pedestrian access on the northbound side of the Fairview Bridge. So there will be back starting, I'm not sure if it starts as far back as McCormick, but as you're approaching the bridge, there will be K-rail set up similar to the way it is now on the southbound side, where pedestrians will be able to be between two sticks of K-rail, and more than two sticks, but they'll be between two setup of K-rail throughout there, and then ultimately they'll get onto the sidewalk for the bridge itself. They'll cross over the ramp, the on-ramp there, and get onto the bridge itself, cross over, and then they'll continue to be able to access sidewalk. I believe we'll have to check on this once you get past the bridge on the northbound side. I'm not sure if you're going to be asked to cross over. I would be a little surprised, but if that were the case, but it could be. I haven't looked at the traffic plan that closely. But if we could take a look at that, that'd be great for technical team in the background, and we can get you an answer to that hopefully before the end of the meeting.
All right. And just to follow up on Charlotte, you had questions about lanes, which lanes would be open on the Fairview Bridge. Our team in the background said yes, southbound Fairview will be accessible. Northbound 405 on-ramp via the dedicated left turn pockets after we switch the traffic. So hopefully that makes sense.
So folks will be able to turn left from northbound Fairview to the northbound 405. Is that what we're saying?
Southbound Fairview you will be able to access from northbound 405 on-ramp via a dedicated left turn pocket after the switch.
Okay, well, we'll take a look. I think that's one of those questions we'll include in the Q&A just so we have everything clear and we understand.
Yes.
I just want to explain to the folks in the meeting that what we've learned over the course of time doing some of these meetings is it's great to have our technical team in the background able to help us with some of these questions, because we were ending up with a lot of things that we didn't have the answer to right away, right? And I think these are all fantastic questions, and we didn't want people to have to wait. But it is important that we are clear about those responses and that we have good information for you. So we try to give what we've got on the fly, answer the questions on the fly now, but we'll always follow up in that Q&A to make sure we've got everything correct. And as always, I just want to mention, if you ever have a question, email us at 405project@octa.net, and we can provide you a response. Again, as Nikki mentioned earlier, we would, if we don't have the answer, we'll work with the technical team to get it. So thank you. And thank you for your patience on this. Appreciate it.
Yes. And Angie, about your question for the southbound wall adjacent to Durango River, the wall is under construction and expected to be complete in the next 3 to 4 months. Right.
Yeah, I would mention also there's a lot of activity going on in 2021 for the project. It's as busy, if not busier, than last year. And we expect the majority of walls to be complete by the end of this year. So that's good news for everybody who's had to deal with being so close to the construction and having their walls come down and new walls have to go up.
Yes. And next question is posted from Josiah.
Yes. What date is the sound wall going to be up behind Boston Way on Fairview? And what is it going to look like? Do you have renderings? So Josiah, I think you and I have spoken in the past. I think you live back up there. And I sent a note out yesterday to the group, last night to the group of Boston Way folks. I believe it's expected to be, in the April-May timeframe that it should be completed, substantially complete. So we're looking at, late spring. Again, it depends on sort of what they run into. There are a couple of things that caused that wall to be delayed. Not the least of which is it required a lot of extra shoring, a lot of those soil nails that were drilled in horizontally to keep the wall up. That was one of the things that delayed it. There was an overhead power line that slowed things down because it had to be de-energized, and that had to be coordinated with an external utility so it wouldn't impact residents. So, but they're getting to it. And with respect to renderings, the wall itself does have some aesthetic elements, but remember, the majority of the wall, I wouldn't say the majority, a good portion of the bottom part of the wall will be covered with dirt. There's some backfill. I think I mentioned this in the email that went out yesterday. They're going to backfill behind the wall between the property walls, and it's actually between the small irrigation channel and the wall. There'll be dirt there, and then the walls themselves. The wall itself has forms. These are wall liner, form liner forms that are used to create a particular design. We can certainly get the details on that and share it with you. And then above that, on top of the retaining wall, as you probably know, there is a block wall, and that is the wall that people would be walking next to who are up on the sidewalk on Fairview. And then, as I mentioned in the email to folks there, I know some of you are on the meeting here. There is a landscape plan that was just signed off by the city and OCTA, and I'll be able to share that with folks pretty soon. I don't have the details. I haven't reviewed the plans in high detail, so I don't have a lot of information about what it contains, but we'll be able to share that with you in a future meeting that we're just going to have at the neighborhood level with folks. Thank you for that.
Okay. Karen, I'm not sure if you've covered this, but Karen has a question, suggestion.
Can you proactively place signs on the 73 and the 405 before road closures, especially at night when ramps will be closed? So the answer to that question, and I think what you're talking about is like, before I get to the 73, I want to know so I can get off sooner. I think that's probably what you're requesting. And we don't typically do that. And the reason we don't do it is because it ultimately, there is a traffic control plan that gets implemented as part of these closures. And there are very specific detours that the cities have all approved, right? At the start of the project, there's this plan that's put together where the cities have been involved in determining what the detours should be for given closures. It's not that we don't want to put up those signs if we could, but we have to stay consistent with what the traffic control plans are. And so the signage is only placed where it's allowed to be placed on the freeway. And ultimately what we ask you to do is sign up for our alerts, right? We have every day we put up a new PDF list or a new Excel spreadsheet. It's the same information. So if you like to go through a PDF and search it, you can find it. Or if you like to sort an Excel spreadsheet, you can download that. These are both on our website. We make them, we link to them from our weekly alerts that we send out on Wednesdays. And these are great tools to find out what closures are coming up. It's the best information we have at this time. it goes to the sort of the next 7 days worth of closures and activities. And if you sign up for that, you can usually get a good advance warning on what upcoming closures are and what the detours are, what the expected detours are. If you choose to use those detours or not, that's of course up to you. But generally speaking, no, we can't deviate from the traffic control plan and put additional signage up. Hope that helps. All
right. And that she said yes, that is what she meant. She confirmed in the chat.
Got it.
Bert had a question.
Sure. Bert says, can you go into some detail regarding the construction on northbound Fairview and the southbound 405 ramp? Will on-ramps to the 73 and 405 be braided here? You're not going to see anything different than you do today in terms of the setup on this. So when you turn right from northbound Fairview and you get onto that ramp, you will be able to access the southbound 405 and the 73. There's no change as far as I know. If my colleagues in the background can check on that, that'd be great, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. In addition, if you're coming down southbound on the 405 and you want to go to 73, that is not going to change for the general lanes, for the regular lanes. You'll still have that connector. The big change is there will be a connector now in the center between the 73 and the 405, and that will drop folks directly into and take them directly out of the express lanes. So if you're in the express lanes, you want to go all the way from LA to South Orange County or to Newport Beach or to San Diego, and you want to take the express lanes, you would be able to stay in those lanes and you don't have to transition out anywhere around Harbor or Fairview to get onto the 73. There's a direct connector. Same applies in the other direction. There'll be a direct connector from the northbound 73 to the northbound express lanes. But you'll also be able to take the regular lanes from the connector, and you'll still be able to get off at Fairview from that connector from the 73 going northbound. I hope that answers your question.
All right. And Charlotte had some more signage questions.
Sounds good. With the 30-day closure of the southbound Fairview exit from 405, will there be signage before Harbor to indicate it? Again, a similar question as before, I believe Karen's question, where wanting to have sign information ahead of time on the freeway. And it's the same thing there. The traffic control plan approved by Caltrans, approved by OCTA, has to be, we have to stick to the plan. And again, that's why we encourage you to check in with us, download that PDF, download the Excel file, check there, and you'll be able to see what closures are coming up in the next 7 days.
All right. And Scott has some questions about noise.
Is there anything we can do about the workers to keep the noise levels lower at night? Constantly yelling at each other when operating machinery, asking about whether there are radios or headsets can be used, tossing material around and throwing them off the edge of the retainer walls, making tons of noise. Is that necessary at 1 a.m.? Scott, no, it's not necessary at all at 1 a.m. We will take that back to the contractor. Anytime you're dealing with this nighttime disruption that we know can be avoided, like tossing stuff off a wall and being loud, playing radios, anything like that, we tell us. We will convey that to the contractor and remind them yet again that they are working next to residential neighborhoods and need to be respectful of that. There are some things that can't change. They do typically, they need to be in communication with each other, and there are ways to do that. I think there are probably ways that are better than yelling, as you've pointed out. We'll ask a little bit about that. I think we've asked about that before. And I think there needs to be, I mean, yelling would be, it'd be great if they could do a radio, but I'm not sure how feasible that is. But the other noise that you hear a lot is the constant beeping when the machinery is backing up. That can't be changed because it's part of state and federal regulation, right? So anytime a truck, a big piece of equipment is backing up of any kind, it's got to have an alarm on it, a backup alarm on it, and it's got to be. You need to be able to hear it from 200 feet away. So it's pretty annoying. I'm sure you guys have heard it many, many times by now. But we will take that back to the team, to the contractor themselves, and ask them to address this.
All right, our next question comes from John.
Any chance to get better police involvement at Fairview Bridge? Many people turn right, but it's posted no turn on red, and people don't stop behind the limit line. They stick out into oncoming traffic. I experienced that just the other day. I was driving Fairview. I wanted to just get a sense of how things had been going there. Got off myself, had somebody honk behind me, even though there was a no right turn on red, and I'd seen people go through it as well. We will talk to the city about that. It is an enforcement issue. And we'll pass that along. I believe they are aware of it. We'll see if there's any way that they can, put a motor cop there or something like that. And if we can make the sign more visible, we'll look at doing that as well. Thank you for that question.
The next question's from Karen. When Fairview will be closed, will harbor work also be occurring?
When Fairview will be closed. If you're talking about the traffic shift, that overnight period, there are actually 2 nights coming up where Fairview will be closed. The first one is next Wednesday night, and then next Thursday night. Thursday night will result in the opening of the new bridge. But the city of Costa Mesa has been very clear with the contractor with respect to their traffic control plan on harbor. They do not want it to be closed when Fairview is. It's a detour that needs to be available, and they don't want vice versa. They don't want closures on harbor to interfere with Fairview. So the contractor is very well aware of that. There should be access to harbor. We will go back and make sure, but during these full nighttime closures coming up of Fairview, we will check on that and include that in our Q&A back to this community.
All right. Cynthia has a question. Will the signals have a beg button for cyclists, or will they recognize that cyclists want to cross the bridges?
So Cynthia, I don't know. I've not heard that term before, a beg button, but I don't believe there's going to be anything different with respect to the technology for these signalized intersections. There's a pedestrian button. Bicyclists are typically in the road, so I don't believe that the expectation is that there's technology for them. And I know. I mean, I used to ride a bike to and from work back when we were still working in the office, and it's always very frustrating when you're coming up on an intersection and you have to wait because nobody else is crossing in the other direction. But I don't know of anything that's going to be special with respect to the PED buttons directed toward bicyclists.
And the next question is from Corinne.
What is the direction for turning left at Fairview? So I'm not sure exactly what you're asking there, turning left at Fairview. Maybe we get a little clarification on that, Corinne, and then we'll come back to your question.
All right. Okay. Let me just making sure I'm going in the correct order here.
Thank you.
We have a question from Richard.
Richard's asking, will there be sound wall from Harbor to Fairview on the south side of the freeway, from Harbor to Fairview? Sound wall? No, I don't actually. I think there was one originally. It's been so long since they took that down. There is some pile driving work. This is where CarMax is, I believe, is what you're talking about, right? And the Mesa Water District. So if you're heading south that way, there are some sound walls there. I don't have those plans memorized, but I do believe that there's going to be walls back there the way they were. I don't think it goes all the way from the bottom of the ramp all the way up the top of the ramp and then all along there, but I do believe where they were before, they will be again.
Okay. And Scott had a question about the pile driver.
he's asking about the equipment, that there's a hydraulic pile driver that emits no smoke. Why isn't that being used near homes? Fantastic question. I don't have an answer for you on that one. We can check with the team. I will say, though, again, reiterate the fact that all of this equipment, all the machinery has the appropriate mechanisms on them to deal with emissions. They are required to meet AQMD standards, state standards. So again, we'll try to respond to that in the Q&A. I don't know what it is, what the difference is between existing ones that they're using and the hydraulic one that you're speaking about. Sorry about that, but we'll try to get a response on that one for you. Nikki, you muted.
Okay, sorry about that. Karen has the question, when finished, will Susan have its own exit from the 73 to the 405? I'm not sure if you've answered this in any other responses yet.
Well, no, I haven't. And the 73 takes you off. And so the way it used to be, right, there are a couple of things. You've got Fairview. That's before that, the connector to the 405. Then you had the connector to the 405 where it split, it forked. You could go to the freeway and then you could get off and go to Susan and Harbor. That will be restored in the final configuration, that you'll be able to get off the 73, choose whether you're going to take the freeway and keep going, or choose whether you're going to get off at Susan/Harbor. So yes.
All right.
And Susan have its own exit. I mean, nothing's really going to change. There won't be a direct exit to Susan. It's off what's known as a collector distributor road, right? So that CD road collects traffic from the 73 and then distributes it. It distributes it to the 405 north. It distributes it to Susan, and it distributes it to Harbor. So collect, distribute.
Okay, and from Charlotte, she's asking us to pass on some suggestions.
Fairview West. So a no turn on red on South Coast Drive, turn onto Fairview West. Fairview's north-south. I think you may be talking about southbound, turning from South Coast Drive onto southbound Fairview. I can see that. And that's because everybody is using South Coast, the left turn, for U-turns. Yeah, that totally makes sense. So you're talking about going south. We'll bring that to the team. Basically, you're talking about people going northbound on Fairview, taking at South Coast, making a U-turn, and merging with cars who are making a right turn off South Coast onto southbound Fairview. And you're concerned about the danger there. That makes sense. We will take that for sure to the team and ask that question if there can be something like that that's done. Again, as explained earlier, that's something we would have to coordinate with the city to see if that's acceptable to them as well. They'd have to sign off. Thank you for that suggestion.
And back to Corinne, I don't think you've clarified for us, but we were wondering if maybe you meant, so the left turn movement on Fairview will, sorry, I'm reading notes from the team here. Left turn movement on Fairview, no left turn from northbound Fairview to northbound 405, but we will have one to southbound Fairview to southbound 405.
Okay, that's what I thought. And this is in the temporary configuration. This is not the final configuration. This is just during the second phase of construction.
So hopefully that answers your question, Corinne. If not, please confirm in the chat.
And I was going to say that goes to the point Charlotte was making about the merge issue when people make that U-turn up at South Coast Drive. They're still going to have to make that U-turn to get on the northbound freeway. They could, of course, choose to go left on South Coast and access via South Coast directly once that ramp reopens, the Highland ramp, which is pretty soon here. When does Highland reopen, guys? The Highland South Coast Drive ramp. We should check on that. That's coming up here, I think, in the next week or so, maybe a couple weeks.
We'll check on that. I don't think I have shared this one yet from Karen. I'm not sure if we've answered this already.
So will the traffic on South Coast Drive have two left turn lanes? I think, are you asking, from South Coast Drive onto Fairview. I think it had 2 left turn lanes originally. I think we closed one because, although I don't know if it's still closed. So if you're talking about from westbound South Coast Drive to southbound Fairview, it should have 2 lanes. It should, yeah, it will have 2 lanes. It'll be restored back to 2 lanes if it doesn't already. I just drove that the other day because we're doing some work at South Coast and the Cape Apartments. And I can't remember, I did turn left there, but if it's still down to 1 lane, it will be back to 2 when the project is completed.
Karen said yes in the chat.
Okay, gotcha.
All right. And Angie had a comment about some cleanup on ramps.
Gotcha. The complaint about these. So we apparently had some, I do have to say that the maintenance has been tough on the project. There's so much to deal with, and typically on any given stretch of freeway, Caltrans has a maintenance department, right? And they are out there as quickly as they can be to address certain parts of the freeway. But when it comes to a project like this, the contractor takes over liability and responsibility for the freeway area and that maintenance work. And we've got an entire team dedicated to that, and we still can't keep up. We also see a lot of graffiti, especially graffiti on some of the new construction, the new walls, some of the new sides of the bridges. It's very frustrating, and the contractor tries to get on that within 24 hours or 48 at the most, if possible. But anytime you see debris or you have some concerns about trash on the freeway or anything like that, let us know. We submit basically, if you will, a ticket that goes to the person who heads up maintenance on our side, on the construction management team side, and they coordinate pickup with and cleanup rather with the contractors team.
And going back to the Highland ramp question, that on-ramp is scheduled to be open February 27th, so a few weeks.
A few weeks more.
Yes.
And that will again alleviate the traffic of people having to make the U-turn at South Coast Drive to get on.
Angie also had a question or comment about noise. She added in a subsequent comment here that lack of sleep is torture, and after the 4th night, it's very, very difficult to function, basically. And we know that many of the residents are experiencing that.
Sure.
But
we can ask if they can turn it down. Generally speaking, the regulation, and it's an OSHA regulation, says they have that the noise has to be audible up to 200 feet away, and it is piercing. I've been out there, during bridge demolitions, during a lot of nighttime activities, and I can't imagine having to try to sleep through it. So I hear you. We'll ask. I fear that the response will probably be no, they can't turn it down. But understand, and this is not meant to be any kind of joke or anything. I don't want to belittle this at all, and I don't. But we do have earplugs. We are more than happy to supply that. They're just the basic ones, the ones actually that the construction crews use, and we're happy to supply those. Another thing I wanted to mention, and it's not something that we go out there and try to offer on a regular basis and say, hey, everybody take advantage of this. But if somebody needs a break, a night or 2 nights of a break from this work, we do have temporary lodging opportunities, right? So if you need a couple of nights away or need a night away, we can try to figure out a way to accommodate that. We do have that mechanism as a way to deal with things. It's not a lot, but it's something.
All right. I think those are all the questions for now. John, thank you. Very informative webinar. Thank you.
Excellent.
Thanks for joining us, John.
I see that in the chat that Cynthia has put some information up about the
button,
the bike actuation, the big button. So that's pretty cool. We'll take that back to the team and ask, Yeah,
I've never heard of that either.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that with us.
Karen also said, thank you, very informative. Cynthia, thank you. I think
absolutely. We appreciate everybody taking the time. I think we do have one last poll we would like you to take before you leave. We'd like to know how this worked for you, right? Would you like to see more virtual meetings for construction updates? We've found these to be very effective. As Nikki mentioned earlier, these are recorded. They're up on our website. We get a lot of views. We probably get 5 times as many people attending these meetings, whether live or viewing the recording afterward, than we did when we held them in person. They're convenient. You don't have to leave your home. You can be in front of your computer. You don't have to dress up. Get dressed. You can sit there and type out your questions. So I hope it's good for you. Take that poll if you would, and we'll go from there. And Nikki, I think that's it, unless we have any more questions.
All right. Let me do one more quick check. Again, if we couldn't answer your question and we needed help from the technical team, we will be sending that out within about a week, I would say, to get those answers for you. That will be sent via email along with our survey. Thank you, Josh. Thank you, Angie. All right. It looks like we might have one more question from Bill. Sorry, I missed it, Bill. You had some questions about bird's eye view and showing some ramps. So we'll follow up with you on those questions and include those after the fact while we get, pull some information and get some research from the technical team on that. I don't see anything else.
Excellent. Well, we'd again like to thank you, remind you that the recording of this is going to be available on the website in about 24 hours. If you missed a part of it and you want to go back and review it, it's there for you. If you have family and friends that might be interested in it, you can get the link. It'll be posted on YouTube on OCTA's YouTube channel on the 405 playlist there. 405 project playlist. We have all our meetings up there if you're interested in any other part of the project, recent everything that's going on elsewhere. And this goes back almost a year now to the start of the second phase of the Magnolia Bridge. So we've got probably about a dozen plus meetings up there. We have some very cool time-lapse photos, time-lapse photography that we have up there with some of the work. So take a look at that. Thank you. Please stay well, stay safe, and have a good weekend.